Some more football talk on TYT Sports. My type of football, the way that some people who don't realise they're doing it, spelling it F-U. Let me pick that part up. More football talk on TYT Sports. Francis, back to hold a little discussion that I would often have in a drunken bar conversation discussing which teams could come into the Premier League and win it already. And that is aside from the usual suspects. I could already rhyme off 5 or 6 that I think would have a great chance at winning the Premier League already. Barcelona, Real Madrid, FC Bayern, Juventus, maybe Atletico Madrid or Borussia Dortmund. Not too sure at the moment in time, but the other team that I wanted to discuss, who I previously would have had in that list, but something's changed this year, is PSG. I talked about this with Jason. I talked about how last year PSG, as consistent as they could come in the French league, they lost their first game at home, I think, in several years, league opener against Monaco. Things are changing. Something is different, PSG, this year. Could it be the big Swede who moved over to play his trade at Manchester United? Possibly. Could it be the difference that they just changed their manager? Unai Emery comes in, a man who's used to guiding a team that loves to be the underdogs in Sevilla and going on and winning Europa Leagues after Europa Leagues and pushing to try and get to the top 4 in Spain. That could be a possibility as well. But would this change be enough to alter my opinion as to whether or not they could win the Premier League? And I think it just might at this moment in time. I'm not playing up the Premier League as this enormous spectacle that is so hard to go and win. I just rampaged my way through last season, ripping team limb from limb, and how Leicester City have proven that this Premier League facade of this league that is the best league in the world just was shattered by an underdog who avoided relegation and then went on to win it. But that doesn't mean it's an easy league to win. It just means that you need to have the right tools to go on and win it. And what PSG had last year, they don't have anymore. I don't think they have the same winning mentality from what I've seen already. I don't think they have the same central charisma through their team. Verratti's still a phenomenal player. They still have undoubtable talent throughout that roster. Thiago Silva is a phenomenal talent as well. They brought in some moving pieces who are good, like Yese, if you tame him. But Cavani up top's not good enough to lead that line. Zlatan Ibrahimovic was. He was consistent enough to provide with goals on a weekly basis in both Liga and the Champions League. That would have to change for them to go on and potentially win a Premier League. You'd have to get the most out of a Di Maria week in, week out. As we've seen in the Premier League, it wasn't the best fit for him at that time. So my thoughts have changed, but it doesn't mean that PSG couldn't go in and fight for a top 4 spot or potentially go on and win the league. The team that I think at the moment, which I'm going to spend a little bit talking about, outside of the usual suspects, I think would have a good chance at winning the Premier League, is Borussia Dortmund. Simply because when you look on paper at the way Borussia Dortmund play their football, it is very similar to how Leicester went on and won the league last year. They've got a little bit more flair in the final third, and they like to move the ball around. I'm not trying to discredit either Leicester or Dortmund. Leicester City, obviously, on paper, didn't have as much talent collectively as many teams in the Premier League, but they had team chemistry. They had a very hard-to-break-down system. They won a lot of their games in the final third of the season by 1 goal, which is what you need to do at that point. But when they hunted the ball in packs with your N'Golo Kantes at that time and your Drinkwaters, they would spring forward a counter-attack that was mesmerising, that was so fluent but also ferocious in pace. Very similar to what Borussia Dortmund do. Watch Borussia Dortmund against Legia Warsaw. When they turn the ball over, it is about 2 or 3 passes before they're in a deadly position with the ability to go and take full advantage of that opponent's weakness. 2 or 3 passes is all it takes. Some teams like to be a little bit more patient, move the ball side to side. You have Real Madrid, you have Barcelona's, and it does work. I mean, Barcelona just crucified Celtic 7-0. But Borussia Dortmund, their system could transfer over into the Premier League, I think, probably better than a lot of teams out there that you would imagine. Juventus are a team I still think could win the Premier League because of how defensively sound they are. We see teams like Chelsea go on and win Premier Leagues from being the part-the-bus team. You got to do what you got to do to win. I think the Juventus do have that stability to go on and win it. But if I was to take a team outside of the less usual suspects, Borussia Dortmund are the team that I think at this moment could seamlessly go into the Premier League and have a better chance than others at winning the whole thing. Just a discussion, just planting a seed out there so that you guys can go home. If you're underage, don't drink any alcohol. If you're on age, go out and have a beer and talk to your German mate who you know follows the Bundesliga. I'm sure he'll get very up and excited when you ask him whether or not Borussia Dortmund could go on and win the Premier League. I'm sure he would believe that they could. And then have a discussion. Set a like in the comment section. Which team outside of the usual suspects could come into the Premier League and win it? Is it PSG? Is it Borussia Dortmund? Is it someone else outside there? Is it Sevilla? Could they come in and win it? Porto, maybe. Who knows? Hit me in the comments at Francis_Maxwell. And I'll catch you guys soon.